Just a quick note before I begin this episode. I just wanted to thank anyone for listening on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Castbox, Radio Public, and Spotify for podcasters. Thank you very much for tuning in. It would be a tremendous help if you could take the time to rate the show and possibly follow me on any of those platforms. I started this as a goof, and I quickly realized that I have a shit ton of writing to share. I have no format. There's no point to any of this, and there aren't any redeeming values happening here. I'm just a man with a keyboard and a blank sheet of paper in front of me. I don't know where it's all going, and I really don't care because this is constructive and fun and keeps my brain occupied and it keeps me out of trouble. Idle hands are the devil's workshop. You can also keep up to date on all things shallow and deep on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. There you'll find some extra content and photos and assorted shallow thoughts and deep shit. All right, I'll stop the begging. Let's do this. In March of 2009, my family and friends gathered at my mother's house in New Paltz, New York, to celebrate my older brother's 44th birthday. I've only seen my brother sporadically throughout my life since we left our old house in Poughkeepsie and all went our separate ways in February of 1989, but we still kept in touch. That night in New Paltz, our friends and family were high in spirits and the alcohol flowed like a river. The days before, I spent a couple of hours composing a toast to my older sibling because I wanted him to know how much he meant to me before our family all went off in different directions again. He was such an important part of my life and upbringing, and without him, I wouldn't be who I am today. When we were kids, he was my best friend and taught me how to be a Lambert. He was also a dick and took very little shit from me, but somehow we both turned out okay and managed to both make it into our 50s, only somewhat scathed and scarred. We needed each other back then growing up in the 1970s because the world was dangerous and unstable. And we need each other now in 2023 because the world is dangerous and unstable. This episode is a reminder to him that I haven't forgotten anything. His name is David Edward Lambert, and this was my toast to him on his 44th birthday. March 21st, 2009. To Dave, you've been my brother for 40 years now, and although it's long overdue, I just wanted to take this time to say thank you for everything. I wanted to thank you for all the talks we had over the years in our bedroom before we went to bed about all the things that we used to want for Christmas and what we wanted to be. I'm sure you got pretty sick of it after days on end, but kept talking about Santa Claus anyway, probably just to shut me up. The Sears catalog was the best. So was Evel Knievel. Thanks for turning the pillow over when it got too hot in the room for me, and thanks for putting up with all of my whining, because God knows I did enough for the both of us. It was dark when we went to bed, and I'm so glad you were there. Thanks for teaching me how to play Teal, that ridiculous game we played to make each other laugh and laugh like two doped up hyenas. Thanks for telling my closest friends about the mole on my butt back on the frozen ice that day with all my buddies from the neighborhood around. And thanks again for telling everyone I had bionic lips and making me demonstrate to everyone like I was some sideshow freak. Also, thanks for threatening to tell Mom and Dad about my affair with little Megan next door when I was 6 years old. Geez, isn't anything sacred? All bullshit aside, I remember back when we lived on Route 52 in Hopewell, we had a huge overturned tree in our backyard down by the swamp with old rotted roots all around, and we climbed up on it and used to pretend it was a garbage truck and that we were garbage men. You may or may not recollect that old stump back there, but that's the place where we used to go play, and it may have one day been a spaceship or the next day a barge or the next day a garbage truck, but it was a place where I got to know you and bonded and played with you out in our yard for the first years of our lives together as brothers. That stump, the yard, and those times and the company I shared is what shaped my life. And back then it didn't matter that we were playing garbage men, pretending to hang off the back of a truck like warrior refuse collectors, even though we were only standing on the remains of an old rotten tree stump. The fact is, I could have stayed there and done that job forever with you because back then, being with you was the only thing that mattered on any particular day, as long as we were together, because that was the only thing that was truly fun in life. Thanks for playing TV tag. taking me trick-or-treating. Thanks for making bedtime a lot less dark, for building the forts and teaching me how to ride. Thanks for Blind Man's Bluff and Chinese school, for tree bending, the owl, the fat tree, snowball fights, sleigh riding, fishing, boating, camping, mountain climbing, bike riding, the boogeyman, clothing, hide and seek, pogo sticking, stilt walking, bridge crossing, juggling, balancing, games, tips and tricks you taught me and that we did growing up. We used to play Connect 4, Battleship, and ride Wild Riders in the 1970s, for Christ's sake. That says a lot. I have no recollection of you when we lived at Clove Branch Apartments at all, so I forgive you for whatever you inflicted on me while we lived there. We've been to the Black Hills and Badlands in South Dakota, all the way to Canyon de Chelly in northern Arizona. We visited petrified forests and been to the bottom of Bryce Canyon on horseback. We saw Mount Rushmore, Old Faithful, and the geysers at Yellowstone, the Grand Teton National Park, Monument Valley, the Grand Canyon, the Snake River, Hoover Dam, and White Sands, New Mexico, and Disney World, and all before I was even 8 years old. I have many fond memories of you as my brother, the one I wanted to look up to and always emulate. I wore your shirts, I took your jewelry, I stole your jackets and necklaces and wore them to school and put them back before you ever knew. Thanks for all the silk shirts, by the way. They felt nice on my 5th grade bony skin. Some things only brothers will remember, like driving to Middletown, New York in 1976 to see the races in the Volkswagen and going home with half the track caked into our hair and lips and our clothes. Remember Basmati the cat frozen to the bumper, Christmas of 1991? We were stung by bees while scaling Breakneck Mountain, catching fireflies at Hillside Lake, winter waterfalls at Lake Minnewaska, skiing Bel Air Mountain, summertime in Cape May, New Jersey, on the beach and fascinated by horseshoe crabs, fishing at Chesapeake Bay with Al and Lisa, catching sharks, swordfish by moonlight on the dock. We also sipped wine on the cliffs while traversing the lemon squeeze at Mohonk, and we sailed down the Hudson River in complete darkness one night. Watch the boom, dumbass. We swam on the beach at Norfolk, Cape Cod, and Ocala, and the Hudson River as well, and I also spent my very first Father's Day with you and Dad at the track at Middletown in 2004. I raise my glass up to you, Dave, my brother, my protector in life, and I drink in your name. I love you and thank you for everything. Cheers. Happy birthday.